So, what we're going to do is kind of explain our process a bit. My name is George Sellers. I'm the creative director for Global Views and Studio A. I kind of steer the ship a bit and in charge of the design process, creative process, product development. So, I'm going to give you a bit of a guide through how we proceed. Joining me on stage is my nephew Eli Sellers. Hello. He is a member of the design team for Global Views. He's very hands-on in what we do. He's very active in showroom setup, product development, and creation. He designs original items as well. Eli came to visit me for a 30-day project about 20 years ago, and it kind of stuck. So he came with a nascent skill set, but then became an apprentice, and now he's a master mold maker and a designer in his own right. So he's worked side by side with me in my own studio here in Dallas. I had a studio for 20 years, fine art, plaster works. You can see some of my things downtown, like the Neiman Marcus doorways on the original store, some bronze things, police stations. We used to do a lot of this kind of large-scale plaster creations. Then I started a small company called Arete, and it got a nice little start, and then Global Views bought my company, and they got me with the package, thank goodness. So I'm here now after that little journey. So starting from fine arts, interior design work, crafting objects, crafting special events, to where we sit now. And what that journey did for me, it was give me a skill set of actually working on product, building it, cutting it, sawing it, breathing the dust, working on it from the ground up. So when we came here, Eli and I, our skill set fit very nicely for furniture design, product design, ceramics. So what we're going to do here, Eli is going to give a bit of a demonstration. What we have sitting on the table are silicone molds. Eli, if you'll show them that. This is a silicone mold Eli made from my direct clay carving. And wiggly and jiggly. This is considered a negative mold, and then what you get from it is a positive. So while I'm giving a little spiel here, he's going to mix some plaster and do a pour just to kind of demonstrate the ground up processes we use to create products for the catalog and for consumption. So, Eli, if you would be so kind.
Absolutely.
And hopefully not too messy.
Okay, I'll try.
The mold is a process which Eli studied for years and has become a master at. This is a two-part mixture of silicone. You mix parts A and B, and you have a working time with that. And then what Eli does, he takes my original carving, surrounds it with a mother mold, so when you pour the rubber, it doesn't escape all over the place. So the mother mold contains it, and it takes a real knowledge of how to mix, how to not destroy the original to get to your negative. So he creates the forms, pours the liquids, monitors it through the curing, and then you remove it from the original. So you have your clay original that's destroyed through the process. So if your mold fails, you lost everything. So a mold maker is key in getting pieces to physically appear. Because if your mold maker messes up, you've wasted all the tons on your original. So if you'll do a little mix.
Okay, I'm ready.
What you see here on the screen, that is a Athena and Mars. I carved the originals. You know, it's a classic study. They've been done for centuries. Artists throughout their career will do a Mars and Athena as just a demonstration of technique and personal perspective. So I created these originals in clay, and then Eli came in and made about a 7 or 8 piece mold that encompassed those originals, and these are life size. They're in the collection over here in the studio. But to create a mold and be able to pull the original from that mold is not an easy task. You're dealing with geometry, with math, weight distributions, because when you pour liquid plaster into that, you've got maybe 150 pounds of outward pressure that is trying to escape the mold, you're trying to contain it. So the mold is paramount in being able to get a piece like this. Once we got the plaster original and fussed with it and got it clean and cute, then it goes in a crate and goes to Italy. And then in Italy, we work with this very small atelier. I think there might be 4 people there. Jeff was with me there. Jeff is a designer who is in charge of the aesthetic for Studio A home. I work directly with Jeff constantly. He was with me when we went to the little factory outside of Florence. Maybe 6 people working there. Very cold, no heat. And they take my original and create a mold, because what they do is called impact clay. So they take a plaster mold, 2 halves of that, and they take thick terracotta clay and they manually pound it into the mold. It's not slip pouring like a lot of ceramics are created with a liquid and then you pour the liquid out. This is an ancient technique. This has been used for millennia, and they're actually in that Tuscan area where this technique was invented. So they're still doing a 2,000-year-old technique. They hand pound all of that terracotta into the mold, then they rejoin it and pack it further for the seams, and then they're able to pull it, fire it, and glaze it. And so we get from our original and from Eli's work, from my work, to the Italian craftsman to be able to have a piece that we can actually put an SKU number on and sell here in the in our showroom. So that is a really good illustration of our process. What Global Views did for us is we didn't have those connections to go from plaster to other medium, because we were homegrown here in Dallas. So what Global Views, it opened the doors for us to be able to extend and work with Italian craftsmen, which Mr. Gebhardt had, for 25 years, has been cultivating these relationships. In Italy, Poland, Portugal, India. So he has this like web of ateliers and craftsmen creating the product that sits in here. And when he let me loose in there, it was like Candyland. It's like, I want to go to all of it. Let's go to all of it, which we did. 2 months in Europe and traveling about to actually visit with these people and work with them. So going on, here's a very good illustration of our process. This is one page of scribbles, basically. And I'm showing you this to illustrate that our collections that we create for Global Views are homegrown. They're design house pieces. We're not going shopping and curating. We do curate, but when it's a very special piece. But our general collections, like from the rug to the sofa to the chair to the lighting above it to the console to the mirror on the wall to the Polish glass to the Italian glass to the ceramics, are created from the ground up. So here is a doodle of a lighting fixture that I was trying to imagine. How am I going to work this out? Because I had this factory that can take glass up to 6 feet long, hand pull it, and bend it into shapes. So I'm like, how can I use that hand bent glass? Because it looks like these beautiful noodles drying on a rod. So I was playing with shapes here, and consequently I must have been a stream of conscious, because there is a rug design that you'll see in here, and another one in Studio A, which I'll talk about later. So this was a little stream of conscious moment, and then it leads to the actual sketch with the glass shape. And then to get to that point, I had Eli weld a frame out of just steel so we could hang it, and then I took strips of fabric and hung on it to see what it was going to do. And I'm like, hey, this could work. It's a little abstract, but that, after we built the frame and fussed with the different elements and hanging stuff on it, see what it looks like, I was able to do a formal sketch with dimensions and the basics on it. And that goes to a development sheet, where there's the little metal thing that we made here in the bottom corner, my sketch, and then I put all my little specifics on there, an LED light source, how it hangs from the canopy, the rings, and then the factory responds to me with all the specs. And then we have to go through it at that point and really pour through every inch of it. It's like, are my tolerances right? Is it going to cave the ceiling in because it weighs 800 pounds? It's that, this is where we make all those little adjustments. You can see all the techniques on there, and then it comes from there, and then we got to wait. Seems like forever, a couple of months, and then we get a prototype, and then we get the piece that hangs in the showroom. And actually, this one came out at such a great price point. It's like, it's kind of free. It's really cool.
I'll take 7.
And it's big. It's like, oh, I love being able to do something that has, it kind of pushes the envelope. It's beautiful, and the price point's awesome. It's like, that's a triple win. So, because the price point's not always awesome in here. I know it's it can get up there, but it's that technique, material, real brass, real glass that drive those things. But this one was super cool.
Designed by you.
Yes, yeah. This was my first piece using that pulled glass. I call them candy canes, because it's basically a candy cane that hangs on a ring. So on that side, you'll see the sketch. I just wanted it to feel like a waterfall or rain. I call it the rain chandelier. This piece came first, and it's huge. And my inspiration for that was I did my graduate studies in Italy, in Florence. And being there for a good amount of time, you can take little train trips out. And this was kind of like my 1920s train station dream. That kind of pre-Art Deco Italian train station that's not in a big city, in a little smaller city, but they're still, you walk in and you're just like, really? They did that? And they did that. So this thing is 9 feet long, and we do have 2 versions of it. It's smaller. It was like, let's make it a little more human scale as well. But this thing sells. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, it's huge, and so it is kind of pricey though. But with a 500-pound chandelier, you got to pay. So, but that's the same process, same techniques, same materials, same factory. This is just an exhibit of a console that is in here. We were in India and we went to visit a 1920s, it's called the Art Deco Palace. It was in Jodhpur. It's an amazing palace this guy built in the 20s in the Art Deco period. And there was this bronze railing that went around a level kind of like that. So this turned into the palace console. So from a sketch to a concept, and then the folks in India that do the welding and metal work and the stone top. So another process thing. Just here is a neat example of a drawing here and the ceramic here. So the concept sketch, I was like, I want to try something like a puzzle. How can, because we have this factory when I say factory, it can mean 7 people. It's not like this big thing, churning things out on a conveyor belt. It's people literally working by hand. So we had made this connection a couple of years ago with this 2 brothers in northern Italy outside of Venice. Their father had had this large building, and he had for years made this stuff, kind of like Capodimonte. Do you know that brand? It's like the white ceramics with all the little flowers and gobbledygook and cherubs, and you see them in the antique stores all the time now. His father made a bunch of that stuff. And these 2 young, hip, cool, educated brothers was like, we got this property, we got the stuff. How can we make contemporary works? And they are doing amazing works for us now. So they're the ones I went to. I was like, here's the sketch. Can your guys now create, I didn't create the original on this one. Because when we go from sketch to relying on their talent. So, and that's just a really cool illustration, I think, of how we work at Global Views and at Studio A. It's from there to here. And the process, it takes a minute. But with the relationships that we have with these ateliers, it's kind of mind-blowing. Eli just poured this. It normally would take about 30 minutes to cure, but we're going to go ahead and accelerate the process. Kind of like a TV show. The cake is already in the oven. So imagine a time lapse here, 30 minutes, and then peeling of the negative mold. And hopefully the cake said I don't have a soggy bottom.
Sorry.
Okay, and there we go. So this is a three-piece collection I did, kind of an Art Deco inspired. That's where my head is right now, is Art Deco. We're seeing a return to decoration, I think. Return to decoration, return to saturated colors. And Art Deco has so many inspirations that I can take it from this cabinet here with the white and brass detailing, which is kind of a modified Art Deco sliding up into the 1940s Hollywood, to decorative items here that can surround that. When I say I want to work in Art Deco thought, I'm not going to come out and just do regurgitated Art Deco. We're going to rely on some shapes and thoughts and experiences from that and then reinterpret it. But this was an opportunity to be like, okay, I'm just going to go all out. I'm going to do some, again, my Italian post office panels, that kind of thing. So there's a three-piece collection that is in the line based on this type of carving. So, Eli, thank you so much. Let's see. Oh, this is a sketch for a leather collection. So we get to work with so many different things. This leather fellow out of India does this beautiful work. So he can take a sketch, something like that, and then you get, that was inspired by women's handbags, and then you turn it into a magazine holder or a catch-all for kids' toys. So when we're designing, we're thinking, how is it going to function? Who's going to make it? And then we're like, hey, let's try this. So, another one of those. Here is a collection that really, Eli and I were able to use our skill set 100%. Colonial Williamsburg is a style partner with Global Views. And what that means, I get to go there, walk around, get in their archives, dig around, have cute dinners outside, watch the little Minutemen walk around and shoot rifles, get the whole experience. And then they look at you and are like, what you gonna do? I'm like, I'm gonna dig around a minute. And this one is a famous walkway in Colonial Williamsburg next to the Governor's Palace. And it's an arbor that they have, it's been there for maybe 200-300 years. And it's been an espalier technique where they've just, and these things have grown into each other, and they've just, that was one of my takeaways. They're like, wait, that's not furniture, that's not, and like, no, this is my takeaway. Like, this is where I want to live at the moment. So this arbor became what's the name of this? Spotswood. That's the Spotswood walkway. So this mirror, which is behind you there in that window, from that walkway became the Spotswood. And what Eli and I have done for years in the showroom is faux bois, plaster faux bois. So I'm like, here's an opportunity to really do something with that. The clay model and Eli, the mold being poured. That's it. This piece where Eli and I would have been working in our studio in Dallas, that would have been like super fragile plaster that no human being could actually touch. With Global Views and their connections to factories, that is cast aluminum, powder coated in white to look like plaster. So you can roll it down a mountain, and it'll be just fine. So that was a revelation for us, is like, I can really cast in aluminum? Are you like, I couldn't, like, nah, I can't afford that, I can't do it. They were able to do it at a really acceptable price point and make this huge statement piece that I'm really pretty pleased with.
Where's the plaster on?
The plaster one is in our warehouse here in Dallas, and we still have them. The mold is what, 8 feet long?
Yeah.
It's a big old giant mold, and to pour the plaster and get it out, it was not easy, and then we had to cut it in like 3 pieces. So cut it up, sent it to India. That took 3 years because they really messed it up the first couple of times. There were big weld marks at every seam, and it was awful. So it took 2 trips over, and a lot of yelling and screaming. And it's like, why? Why are there weld marks on it? You know, all you got to do, and this is where our skill set came in. I was like, hand me the grinder. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how to get rid of weld mark. And they're like, oh, but it's too much. It's labor. It'll cost more. I was like, I don't care.
It's this. It's
I know.
this.
Do it. Charge me. And it wasn't that bad. So, being able to work with a factory and also share some of what I have learned from fine art has been really handy. So that was able to get us to that point. Let's see what else we got here. This is something I had never thought I would be able to work in. This is Tufted Wool Rug. I was like, that was so not my language. I'm like, I knew wall-to-wall carpet from my mama's house that wasn't in the best shape, and it was usually kind of avocado and sculpted. Because I grew up in the backwoods of southern Oklahoma. I know I wanted to get out really quick, but that was my heritage. But my mama, she did like to decorate, and that usually meant going to garage sales. And me pestering her to be able to wallpaper once a year, something like that. So it was an odd start, but thinking I can stand up here and look at a tufted wool rug out of India, I was like, yeah, I'm game for it. But to get here, this is a little video of Eli.
No, you did it.
So we took a canvas, and I knew I wanted this kind of spatial square on it somehow to break it up. And then I went to Eli and was like, how do we get here? So with his engineering, he can figure anything out. He's like, give me a second. So I went back up into the office, and he fussed around for a while. Then I came back out, and this was going on. I'm like, okay, I think you figured it out. And what kind of amazes me about what he's done here is the timing. You've got fluid, flow, density of liquid, and he only did this one time. And how did he time it?
You know the geometry. It's out. What is the liquid?
Paint. So there he,
Is it just paint?
and there's the and look how.
So what did you do? So then what happened? So we've got the canvas.
I've got the canvas.
And then where?
The canvas dries. I'm like, don't touch it. The spiral's perfect. Everybody get away. Canvas dries. We take it to Ben, who's here on the camera. Ben does a lot of our social media, photography. He kind of helps us in a multitude of ways. But when I get an original like that, I run to Ben, and he's very kind. He'll stop what he's doing. He pins it on the wall and lights it. Gets me a photograph with a lot of pixels in it.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
A good picture.
Yeah, a good picture that is better than my phone. But it has a lot of pixels, and then it's too big for me to send, so we have to do something with a Dropbox and all that, which I don't care for. But we're able to get it to India. India makes a CAD, which then we are like, oh yeah, the CAD works. Now how do we, like in that little square, it was like, we're going to do tufted wool. Here's our colors. Now on the square, let's do viscose because it's going to shine and it's going to change. It's going to change when the light hits it. So we kind of layer it up. They send us a 2x3, and they're like, "Yep, it's a go." And then it got a top pick in High Point. It did really well. It was like it got a good receipt. So that's just a little fun one.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How do you, so this is incredibly artistic. So who gets credit? Did the two of you get the credit? Is that how
That rug,
how do I tell a customer this is an original?
I think in our literature, and I believe online, Eli is credited for that. That is his. I will pitch a concept, and sometimes he will or won't do it. So I'm like, here's a concept, and if it's like this, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick another one. So when I get a concept that he's into and is in his skill set, all I have to do is walk away. So
It's beautiful. It's very beautiful.
Thank you.
sure.
So, how does Eli make the Coke bottle to make such a perfect circles in
The earth does that.
Yeah, the earth.
The earth
Yeah, the
does
pendulum
that.
effect
Yeah.
is like the Foucault pendulum.
That's,
that
I
can
think that's what's the beauty of it.
How many
Is that
times did you have to try to get it perfect?
He did it one time. One time. And to get it to spot and finish, I'm like, mine would have been like doing all this, and I'd had it
Yeah,
on my
but
face.
That's
and-
even perfect too. I mean,
I know.
that's the beauty of that. It's the
It's-
gravity.
it-
The earth is making that. That's what I think is so beautiful about that rug. There's so much depth to the art. I think.
It's like this organic,
It's very organic.
spatial, cosmic moment.
And if you can tell
because
somebody that story, they'll want that rug.
We didn't create that circle.
No, the earth,
The earth created it.
gravity.
We just gave it an opportunity. And Eli knew how high to go with the rope and how viscous to make the paint.
It's all about physics. If you have
Yeah.
physics,
And what size hole to poke in that little.
I like to call it natural math.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just let it happen.
Yeah. It's much easier than the other kind.
You can do the math and figure it out,
I can't,
but I'm not doing it.
no, me either. I don't even like pixels. So,
I'm impressed you did that.
is that it? Well, that does conclude our little video talk. Does anyone have any questions or?
I think you answered that this is inspiring for sure.
Very.
Cool.
I know one
Well-
of you asked how they're giving credit. If you look on our website, if you look at the romance copy, it does give credit to our creative director and it'll say names, so you can see which are original pieces.
I did not have any idea that they were. I mean, they're going to be like Nakasimi and Hoffman, and that's what it's going to be. You know,
We have-
20, 30, 40 years from now.
I think we have 4 pieces in the collection that are based on original canvases that Eli painted. I've worked on some of them. Eli mainly paints those himself. And our fine art collection, which is printed, like the large piece on the wall there, that's Eli's work as well. So they really allow us a lot of freedom to take our medium and do interesting things with it. So it's the environment at Global Views it's creative. It's allowing you to find your inspiration, and then usually the answer is sure, let's try it. Let's do it. Let's push the envelope if we can. I know it's home interiors, but there are ways to do such things, and kind of follow your inspiration. And on that note, I'd like to end with one of my, I guess, concepts is always when I work on design, I want to always and rely on the unexpected, because like that rug, we didn't realize what was going to come out of it, and it was unexpected. I was like, are we going to waste time on this? Is that thing going to spin around? Is this going to make a mess? I'm like, sometimes the unexpected turns out to be exactly what you wanted. So if we can impose on you for just a moment. We always like to be a little serious, a little less serious and beautiful, so.